Hey man, Shane here. Let's talk about the bane of every skinny guy's bulk. Eating enough calories to gain weight while doing it in a way that's healthy and allows us to build muscle leanly. It's a very common problem. Almost every naturally skinny person has a hard time eating enough calories to gain weight. And usually that would be a good thing. Our bodies are helping us effortlessly avoid the obesity that plagues almost everyone else. For example, most naturally thin people have fewer fat cells, making it very comfortable to stay thin. And there's no downside to that. Having fewer fat cells doesn't hinder muscle growth in any way whatsoever, and it makes it easier to stay lean, and you'll gain less fat while bulking. Even better, once you're an adult, the number of fat cells you have doesn't change. They just shrink and expand, which means that for the rest of your life, you'll have an easier time staying lean. Here's another example. In a famous 1945 study, A.J. Cox found that the size of the human stomach can vary by up to 600% between people. In fact, according to Cunningham's textbook of anatomy, no organ in the body varies more in size than the stomach. That means the big guy saying you just need to eat more food might have a stomach that's 6 times bigger than yours. No wonder he finds it so easy to gain weight and doesn't understand why it's so difficult for us. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's impossible, and there are actually quite a few things we can do to make it easier. I've gained 70 pounds and I've comfortably maintained it over the past decade. I've also helped 15,000 other naturally skinny people bulk up, and I've learned quite a lot while doing it. Let's start at the beginning. Before I go into the tips, I have a word of warning. If you start eating more food before you start lifting weights, then almost all of the weight you gain will be fat. And if you're naturally thin, then your body probably isn't very interested in gaining fat, which can make it even more difficult to gain weight. And you probably wouldn't want to gain that kind of weight anyway. So, the very first step is to stimulate as much muscle growth as you possibly can. Some people find that stimulating their muscles also stimulates their appetites, but that isn't always true for skinny guys. In my case, working out makes me want to eat enough to maintain the muscle I've already gained, but it's never helped me gain weight, even when I was 120 pounds with a BMI of 16. Most of us need more powerful methods. When people search for how to eat more calories, the first thing they usually come across is the satiety index of common foods. It's an interesting study. The researchers took a bunch of common foods and measured how full people felt after eating them. They found that boiled potatoes, white fish, and oatmeal were the most filling, whereas croissants, cake, and donuts were the least filling. No great surprise there, though it's a little weird how filling boiled potatoes are. What's more interesting is that the researchers measured how many calories people ate in their next meal, and they found that the less filling a food was, the more calories people tended to eat per day. So, for example, if you ate a boiled potato for lunch, you might eat 650 calories for dinner, whereas if you ate a croissant for lunch, you might eat 800 calories for dinner. That's a difference of 150 calories, which might be enough to tip you into a lean bulk. And that's good. What's less good is that, according to this study, the foods that make it the easiest to gain weight are the ones that are lower in protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other micronutrients. So, if you want to bulk in a healthy way, then you need to find a better method. And there are better methods. I can teach you 17 of them. Let's start with fiber. Fiber has about 2 calories per gram, which is half as many as regular carbs. And it gets worse, because fiber also slows digestion, keeping us feeling full for longer. And that's a problem because fiber is also super good for us. Soluble fiber improves your blood sugar and blood lipids, and insoluble fiber helps food move through your digestive system, and it strengthens your gut microbiome. So, fiber is filling, but it also builds a stronger digestive system in the long run. That's why I don't recommend cutting back on it. In fact, it might be even better if you ate even more. The next problem is water. It doesn't contain any calories. It means the more watery a food is, the fewer calories it has, and the more space it takes up in your stomach. That's why boiled potatoes are so infuriatingly filling. Same thing with other watery fruits and vegetables, like strawberries, watermelons, apples, pears, broccoli, pickles, and carrots. All of those foods are fantastic for you, but if you're trying to eat more calories, then it helps to eat plenty of denser foods too, like having blueberries instead of strawberries, or a banana instead of an apple, or peas instead of broccoli. If you like drinking a glass of water with your meals, that's probably fine. Having a moderate amount of fluid in your stomach helps you digest food. Or you could bump your calories higher by swapping the water for milk, soy milk, oat milk, or even a little bit of fruit juice. They contain the fluid you need while also being richer in calories and protein. There's an art to this. If your meal is too dry and salty, then it'll be harder to digest and it will leave you feeling thirsty. and there's nothing worse than being thirsty and not having any room in your stomach for water. On the other hand, if you're having juicy fruits and vegetables and then you're adding a side of water on top of that, you might have trouble fitting enough calories into your stomach. That's why the best bulking meals tend to have a moderate amount of fluid. Think of the chanko nabe stew that sumo wrestlers eat, or muesli cereal with milk, or a high-calorie smoothie, or my personal favorite, chili. The fluid makes them easy to digest, but they're also dense, allowing you to comfortably fit a ton of calories into your stomach. You're also free to drink as much water as you want between meals. When you drink water on an empty stomach, it passes through your body fast. Most of it will be gone within 10 or 20 minutes. Coffee and tea are similar to water. They don't contain any calories and they're full of fluid, so it might make more sense to have them between meals instead of with meals. What's interesting is that coffee stimulates the production of stomach acid about 30 or 45 minutes after you drink it, which can improve your ability to digest your next meal. Mind you, if you have a sensitive digestive system, then too much caffeine might trigger heartburn and acid reflux. I've gotten heartburn a couple times from having coffee right after eating a big bulking meal, so it's something you might want to be careful with. The more you need to chew a food, the longer it takes to eat and the fuller you'll feel. It means one of the best things you can do is soak, grind, and blend your food so that it's easier to chew and faster to eat. That's why ground beef and ground chicken are such popular bulking foods. They're way easier to chew than steak and chicken breast. You can mix that ground meat with beans, corn, and peppers to make a Texan chili, or you can make it with olives and raisins served over rice to make picadillo. You could also make the bodybuilder version, monster mash, where you mix ground meat with chicken broth, rice, and bell peppers. Fruits and veggies take a while to chew too, so you can blend them up with yogurt, nuts, and seeds to make a smoothie. When you blend fruits and vegetables, it's like chewing them very finely. They don't lose any nutrients, they don't spike your blood sugar, and they often digest a little bit slower, especially if you're blending up seeds you wouldn't normally chew through, like the seeds in berries. What's cool about smoothies is that even though they digest so smoothly, they aren't very filling. When researchers give people high-calorie smoothies for breakfast, they tend to eat more calories later in the day. For example, in one study, the participants who swapped their usual breakfast for a 700-calorie smoothie wound up eating an extra 300 calories per day, even though they weren't trying to. That's enough of a calorie boost to bulk at a pretty good pace. The other benefit of smoothies is they only take a couple of minutes to blend and drink, and you can pack them full of nutritious ingredients, getting several servings of fruits and veggies, lots of protein, lots of fiber, plenty of probiotics, all of which is great for your health and digestion. I'll put a link to a recipe in the description. Building on the last tip, another thing that helps is to eat more aggressively, trying to finish your meal in less time. If the meal is especially large and daunting, I find it helps to pretend I'm a hungry person who's eager to eat it. You still need to chew your food, but you can take bigger bites and chew them faster. The faster you eat, the less full you'll feel in the moment and the more calories you'll want to eat later on. Most of all, you'll avoid that moment in the middle of the meal when you feel too full to continue eating. This will allow you to eat meals that are a little bit bigger than you would normally eat. That will stretch out your stomach, making it a little bit bigger over time and making it easier to continue bulking. Some skinny guys even set timers while they're eating. I saw that Joe Fazer was doing that, spending the first 5 minutes of each meal eating as much as he could. I haven't ever set a timer, but when I'm bulking, I do try to focus on eating until I'm finished eating. Then when I'm finished, I put down my fork and I ask people to repeat any questions they may have asked me while I was focused on my meal. The next strategy is to eat more often, which is crucial for guys with small stomachs and meager appetites, but is also somewhat controversial. Intermittent fasting is popular in the fitness industry and it's often touted as being healthier. However, the main reason it's healthier is that when you eat fewer meals, it's harder to overeat. Most people are overweight, so making it harder for them to gain even more weight improves their health. A better approach while bulking, and one I've had much better luck with, is to eat smaller meals more often. That could be as simple as eating extra snacks, and those snacks can be as simple as homemade protein bars, some cottage cheese with jam, or some apple slices dipped in peanut butter. That might still sound inconvenient, especially if you associate eating with feeling tired, but that lassitude usually comes after large meals, and if you're eating more often, you won't need to eat large meals, saving you from energy crashes after lunch and dinner. So, I recommend having your first meal pretty soon after waking up. If you're like me and you wake up without much of an appetite, then keep that first meal light and easy. Maybe a smoothie, a protein shake and a banana, or a homemade protein bar. It might also help to have a small snack before going to bed. Think of snacks like a cup of cottage cheese with a tablespoon of strawberry jam. I also like having Greek yogurt with frozen berries and a little bit of honey. Ketogenic diets are popular for a reason. When you cut back on carbs, it makes it easier to eat fewer calories, making it easier to lose weight. We want to do the opposite of that, so it helps to add extra carbs into our diets. The other benefit of eating more carbs is that they pump your muscles full of glycogen, making them fuller and harder, improving your workout performance, and perhaps even increasing your rate of muscle growth. That doesn't mean you need to bulk on a high carb diet, but it's much easier to gain weight when you can eat foods like oats, beans, rice, whole grain bread, corn, peas, yogurt, and milk. Of all of those carbs, rice is a favorite. White rice is famous for going down easy, whereas brown rice has more calories, protein, and fiber, and it has vitamins and minerals in their naturally occurring forms. If I'm eating picadillo or stir fry, I'll usually eat white rice, but if I'm having a side of rice alongside some salmon or mole, I'll usually have brown rice. Both are great. Another easy source of carbs is bananas. The problem is that they only stay fresh for a couple of days. I've heard you can keep them fresh for longer by wrapping the ends with plastic wrap, or if you don't mind the skin turning brown, you could put them in the fridge. But even then, they won't stay fresh for that long. So what you can do is eat them fresh while they're fresh, then peel them and stick them in the freezer before they go bad. Then you can blend those frozen bananas into your smoothies, making your smoothies colder and more refreshing. If you don't get your bananas into the freezer on time, you can make banana bread. Low-fat diets aren't very popular right now, except maybe in some plant-based communities. But another thing that can make it really hard to eat enough calories is restricting your fat intake. That's because fat is a potent source of energy. It has 9 calories per gram, making it over twice as dense as carbs and protein. Peanut butter is great for this. It's a healthy type of fat, and it's also a good source of protein. You can spread it on whole grain bread, blend it into smoothies, dip apple slices into it, or eat it by the spoonful. A heaping spoonful of peanut butter has about 150 calories, with 6 grams of protein. Cheese is another really good one for bulking. I'm not sure if it's controversial or not, but it's a traditional, nutritious, well-studied food, and most research shows it has a neutral to positive effect on our health. And it tastes great. I particularly like melting some manchego on top of my chili. Another big one is olive oil. It's famous for having healthy polyphenols and being a good source of vitamin E, but it's also very high in calories, with 120 calories per tablespoon. You can drizzle that spoonful on your veggies, mix it into your soups and stews, or add it to your sauces. Another of my favorites is dark chocolate, which seems to be quite good for our hearts, perhaps because it's another rich source of polyphenols. One of my favorite things to do is sprinkle dark chocolate chips over some Greek yogurt with frozen berries. The chocolate hardens, giving it a nice crunchy texture that melts in your mouth, making it feel like eating chocolate chip ice cream. Protein is one of the more important nutrients for building muscle, but it doesn't take that much to maximize your rate of muscle growth. Only about 0.7 to 1 gram per pound per day. That target isn't that hard to hit, especially when you're eating lots of healthy food and you're picking up all these grams of protein hiding in cheese, yogurt, beans, peanut butter, nuts, seeds, brown rice, peas, and whole grains. But you might still need to eat a little more protein than you're used to, which can be tough because when you eat protein, your body releases hormones that keeps food in your stomach for longer, giving you more time to digest the protein. That's good in some ways. When food leaves your stomach more slowly, you get a steadier supply of sugar released into your bloodstream. That keeps your blood sugar more stable, which might also keep your energy levels more stable, but it can also make it harder to eat enough calories to gain weight. The research is mixed. Some studies show that eating more protein causes people to eat less, and that the effect is stronger with leaner, chewier protein sources like chicken breast, white fish, and trimmed steak. But other studies show no effect, and there are plenty of proteins that are known for going down easy, like ground meat, salmon, milk, soy milk, Greek yogurt, and protein shakes. Speaking of protein shakes, if you have a scoop of protein powder with water, then you get about 120 calories with 24 grams of protein. That isn't bad, but you could add a second scoop of protein, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, maybe a little beetroot powder, some cacao, or maybe even a scoop or two of maltodextrin, which is a starchy carb kind of like flour. Now your protein shake has up to 500 calories with 50 grams of protein, some omega-3 fatty acids, 5 grams of fiber, and more vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. With just a few more seconds of work, you've turned it into a much bigger and more balanced meal. And all of these are powders, making it easy to bring to the gym with you, where you can sip on it while working out. The controversial part is that some people are wary of protein powders, and even more people are wary of carb powders. You don't have to do any of this, but if you want to, there isn't any reason to think it would be bad for your health. I drank one of these shakes every workout while gaining my first 50 pounds of muscle, and all of my health markers improved. We've also used variations of these shakes with hundreds of clients, including college, professional, and Olympic athletes, and it wasn't a problem there either. And I've asked about a dozen nutritionists, dietitians, and hypertrophy researchers about this over the years, and all of them said it was fine for thin guys who lift weights to use a moderate amount of maltodextrin to help them bulk up. Sauces are often packed with calories and nutrients and make your meals easier to eat. Adding jam to a peanut butter sandwich makes it go down way easier. So does adding mole to your chicken breast, or a stir-fry sauce to your stir-fry. I mostly eat salsa type sauces like hot sauce and pico de gallo, but there's also soy sauce, honey, hummus, guacamole, tahini, tzatziki, baba ganoush, and tons of other kinds of sauces. Most of those sauces are good for you, especially if they have ingredients like olive oil, garlic, ginger, onions, herbs, peppers, tomatoes, or vinegar. Some of those ingredients also seem to help with digestion. Even sugary sauces like jam, ketchup, honey, and barbecue sauce contain some nutrients, and you don't need to worry about the sugar when it's a small part of a big nutritious meal that's helping you build muscle leanly. Your digestive system follows your circadian rhythm. Your body prepares hormones, stomach acid, and digestive enzymes at the times you normally eat to digest the sorts of meals you normally eat. So, you want to get into a nice steady rhythm, eating similarly sized meals at about the same time every day. That also means you'll be eating about the same number of calories every day, allowing you to gain weight at a lean and steady pace, and making it easy to know when you need to bump up your calorie intake. The problem is that when you're bulking, you might not feel very hungry very often. So, instead of letting your hunger guide you, you should pick a schedule and stick with it, eating your meals at predetermined times. I'm absolutely horrible at this. If I'm working on a thumbnail illustration or filming a video or writing an article, the last thing I want to do is get up and eat. And in my day-to-day life, that's totally fine. My muscles won't fall off if I skip or delay a meal. But if I'm bulking, I stick to the schedule, and I grab a smoothie or some energy balls from the fridge. One of the biggest problems people run into is that when it's time to eat, they don't know what to eat, and they're too lazy to cook it anyway. So, stock your pantry full of beans, dark chocolate, rice, and muesli cereal. Fill your fridge with yogurt, milk, and milk alternatives, and leftovers. And keep some frozen mixed berries, salmon, and maybe some ground meat in your freezer. That means if you feel lazy, all you need to do is pour some milk into some muesli, and you've got a nutritious 700 calorie meal. I'm also a big fan of trail mix, which is a mix of nuts, seeds, and dried fruits. If you choose a good flavor, you can get a fully balanced meal that way. This little bag here has 700 calories and 40 grams of protein, all from nutritious whole foods. I only cooked once per week while gaining my first 50 pounds of muscle. I'd set aside a couple of hours every Sunday afternoon to go grocery shopping, and then I'd make a dozen servings of chili and a tray of homemade protein bars. During the week, I'd have 1 or 2 bowls of chili, one of those protein bars, a smoothie, and a couple of snacks. Sometimes, in a desperate effort to reach your caloric goals, you may be forced to eat a meal that's uncomfortably large, leaving you feeling tired and bloated. When that happens, the temptation is to lie down, which is usually fine, but I find it helps to stand up or go on a walk instead. That seems to speed up digestion, balance out your blood sugar, prevent acid reflux, and clear out any gas that's building up. At some point, no matter how diligent you try to be, you're bound to fall behind on calories, so you need some high-calorie emergency foods that you can fall back on. I would use shots of olive oil for this. A single shot contains almost 400 calories, which made it easy to catch back up. But it's much better if you have something more palatable on hand, like these beastly energy balls. I'll link the recipe in the description. They're a balanced and nutritious meal, a great source of calories, and they're far higher in protein. Plus, they only take a few seconds to eat. The trick is to make sure you already have them prepared in the fridge. The other thing I do is eat Greek yogurt out of the tub. It isn't as high in calories, but it's very high in protein, and it's easy to wolf down 8 or 10 spoonfuls before heading to bed. Muesli cereal is good for this too. All you need to do is pour in some sort of milk, and it's pretty easy to eat. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is changing too many things too dramatically in too weird of a way. There are a few common examples of this. When I first started bulking, I would pack the blender full of as much healthy food as I could, including unsavory ingredients like olive oil, raw eggs, and raw broccoli. I would blend up a full liter of that sludge, chug it down, and watch my stomach expand until I looked 9 months pregnant, which didn't feel very good. It's much better to start with a 500 or maybe a 700 calorie smoothie, and you want to fill it with normal smoothie ingredients in normal serving sizes. If that goes well, then you can make it a little bit bigger. Another mistake is to suddenly switch to a radical diet, like a gallon of milk a day, go mad, where you're shocking your digestive system with thousands of calories of whole milk. Milk can be a great bulking food if you digest it well, but you should have it in normal serving sizes as part of a balanced diet. A liter of milk a day, low mad, is much more reasonable. Another example is weight gainers. Most weight gainers have serving sizes of well over 1,000 calories. That's too large of a serving, and it's too much processed food. It's okay to have some protein powder and maltodextrin, but half a serving of weight gainer is more than enough. You might get lucky, but most people who bulk in weird and extreme ways wind up feeling bad and gaining fat. You probably won't gain so much fat that it causes a problem, and if you're naturally thin, then it'll be easy to lose the fat anyway. But you might gain enough fat that you would have wished that it would have warned you. Plus, if you do weird things, then you might run into weird problems that you wouldn't otherwise expect. You don't need to use all of these tips, and your calorie surplus doesn't need to be that big. If you can add a 500 calorie smoothie on top of what you're already eating, that might be enough to get the scale moving in the right direction. Or you could have a small glass of milk or soy milk with meals, or maybe snack on a few energy balls between lunch and dinner, or make your meals a little larger and try to eat them a little faster. So, at long last, the final tip is to start small and build from there, progressively overloading your calories, just like you progressively overload the weights at the gym. Your digestive system will prefer those small, gradual changes anyway. Alright, that's it for now. I've got some of my favorite recipes linked in the description. If you liked the video, thank you. I hope to see you in the next one.